The morning sun filtered softly through the old farmhouse curtains, painting the kitchen in shades of gold and memory. Anna stood by the window, hands wrapped around a chipped mug, watching the field sway with wind, the same field her family once built their name upon. It had been 13 years since her mother's funeral, and yet every corner of this place still whispered her name. Her mother had always said, "Loyalty keeps the family together." But Anna had learned the cruel truth. Sometimes, loyalty breaks the very heart it tries to protect. Behind her, laughter floated from the porch. Her sister, Clara, and their father, George Whitman. The sound was warm, full of easy affection. It used to include her, not anymore. Anna's eyes followed them through the window. Clara's hand rested lightly on their father's arm, the perfect daughter, the chosen one. They looked like the family from old photographs, untouched by secrets. And yet, Anna knew what it cost. 13 years ago, when their mother died, the farm was drowning in debt. Their father had turned to her, the eldest, the dependable one. "Sign this, Anna," he'd said, placing the papers in front of her. "Just temporary, until things get better. I promise." She hadn't read the fine print. She'd just trusted him, because loyalty wasn't a choice. It was her identity. But the papers weren't about saving the farm. They were about transferring it. When she finally understood, it was too late. Everything, and the land, the house, the business, had been signed over to Clara. Her father called it a decision for the family's future. Her loyalty had turned her into a ghost inside her own home. She had left quietly, the way loyal people always do, without noise, without questions, without anyone stopping her. Now, years later, she was back on not to reclaim what she lost, but to face the promise that broke her. A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. It was Mrs. Haynes, the old neighbor, her eyes bright with gossip and pity. "You heard the news, dear? Clara's engagement party this Saturday, right here at the farm. Everyone in town's invited." Anna's lips curved in a faint smile. "Of course they are." Mrs. Haynes hesitated, lowering her voice. "Will you go?" Anna took a slow sip of coffee. "I think I will. It's been a long time since I saw the family I lost." When the old woman left, Anna lingered by the window, her reflection faint in the glass. The field beyond shimmered with memories, laughter, betrayal, promises buried under soil and time. She set the mug down gently. She wasn't coming back for revenge. Not yet. She was coming back for truth, and to see if any part of her family still remembered who she really was. Her gaze drifted toward the horizon where the farmhouse roof gleamed faintly in the distance. Some wounds never healed. They just learned to wait. And this one had waited long enough. Anna picked up her old leather coat from the chair, the same one her mother gave her before she died. The lining was torn, but it still smelled faintly of lavender and ash. As she stepped outside, the wind caught her hair, lifting it like a whisper. The road ahead was the same dirt path she had once walked away on. But this time, she wasn't leaving. This time, she was returning to the place where loyalty became her undoing. Her voice, soft but certain, slipped into the wind. Some promises should never have been made. And with that, she started walking toward the farm, toward the past, toward the quiet storm that had been waiting 13 years to rise. Clara Whitman had always been the golden child, even when they were little. Her laughter filled the house in ways Anna's silence never could. Clara was sunlight, bright, soft, easy to love. Anna was the one who held the shadows together. Their father used to say, "Clara has your mother's charm." But what he never said, and what Anna never forgot, was that she had her mother's strength. And sometimes, strength made people uncomfortable. At breakfast, the old farmhouse table gleamed under new polish. Every corner looked curated, every wall freshly painted. The place had changed, not the house she left behind, but a version of it that didn't remember her. Clara's voice carried from the dining room, light and effortless. "Oh, Father, I thought white roses would suit the table best." "They look so pure, don't they?" Her father smiled proudly. "Just like you, my dear." Anna stood in the doorway, unseen for a moment, like a ghost watching the living. When Clara finally noticed her, the smile faltered, just slightly. Anna. You came, she said, tone wrapped in politeness. I was invited, Anna replied softly. Or so I heard. Her father's expression tightened. Of course you were. Your family, after all, but his words felt rehearsed. Like a kindness he no longer believed in. The silence that followed was thick, fragile. Anna's eyes moved to the photographs on the mantel. All new ones. Clara in her college gown. Clara at charity events. Clara with her fiancé, William, smiling like perfection itself, and not a single trace of Anna. She turned back to her sister. You've done well for yourself. Clara's smile returned. A careful, graceful performance. We all do what we must, Anna. Anna's voice remained calm, but a flicker passed through her gaze. Yes, some of us lose everything doing it. Their father rose abruptly. This isn't the time for bitterness. Clara's engagement is a blessing. Let's not spoil it. Anna nodded once, keeping her tone gentle. Of course, father. I wouldn't dream of it, but inside, a quiet storm began to form. Not anger, not jealousy, just a slow recognition of what had been stolen and how deeply it still hurt. She watched Clara glide around the table, giving orders to the housekeeper, arranging flowers, making small corrections as though the world needed her touch to stay perfect. Every movement was a reminder of what Anna used to be. The one who kept things together. The one who made it all work. Now she was just a visitor in the life she once built. When Clara passed by, her perfume, soft jasmine, stirred an old memory. Their mother's voice fading in a hospital room whispering, "Promise me you'll take care of your sister." Anna had. She always had, but no one had promised to take care of her. Later, as the guests began to arrive, Anna stepped outside to breathe. The air carried music and laughter, the sounds of a family celebrating itself. From the porch, she could see Clara greeting people, graceful, radiant, adored. Mrs. Haynes's words echoed in her mind. She's her father's pride, you know. Can do no wrong. Anna's lips curved in a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. People like Clara never did wrong. Not because they were innocent, but because the world refused to see it. The golden child had everything. Beauty, admiration, and a future handed to her on a silver plate. But Anna had something Clara didn't. She had memory, and buried in those memories were truths sharp enough to cut through gold. As she watched her sister laugh among the guests, Anna whispered to herself, let her shine. Even the sun burns when it gets too close. Anna had spent her whole life mistaking obedience for love. Every yes, father, and every I understand had been her way of keeping peace, the kind of fragile peace that cracks the soul. When she was younger, her father's approval felt like sunlight, rare, distant and always just beyond reach. He would say, "Don't question, Anna. Good daughters don't argue." And she believed him, because questioning meant losing what little affection she had. Years later, as she stood in the same house, hearing the same tone in his voice, she realized obedience had cost her more than she ever imagined. At the dinner table, the conversation revolved around Clara's upcoming wedding, the guest list. The flowers, the designer. Anna listened. Quiet as always, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her father looked at her with that familiar, dismissive kindness. You've always been dependable, Anna. Never any trouble. It was meant as praise, but to Anna it sounded like a eulogy. She smiled faintly. Yes, father. No trouble at all. Across the table, Clara laughed, the sound light and confident. You see? That's why father trusts you with everything dull. You never say no. The words slipped out easily. But they cut like glass. Anna met her sister's gaze and saw no malice, just the casual cruelty of someone who had never needed to fight for love. She took a slow breath. Not everyone needs to be seen to hold a family together. Clara blinked, unsure whether it was an insult or a truth. Before she could respond, their father spoke again. Enough, girls. Clara, don't tease your sister. Anna means well. Anna almost laughed. Means well. That was all she ever meant. Well enough to be invisible. Kind enough to be forgotten. After dinner, she found herself wandering through the old study. The air still carried the scent of her father's cigars and the faint musk of leather-bound books. On the desk, she saw the family ledger, the same one she used to update every week before she was sent away. She opened it out of habit. The pages were meticulous. Clara's wedding expenses, business accounts, property notes. Then she saw something strange. Her own name, written faintly in the margins. Next to it, Inheritance Fund Reallocated. Anna stared at the words for a long moment. Her heart did not race. Her breath did not quicken. It was just confirmation of what she had always known, that loyalty meant nothing without power. Her father's voice echoed from the hallway. "You shouldn't be in there, Anna." She turned slowly, meeting his gaze. "Just reminiscing." "You were never interested in numbers," he said, walking in. "That was always Clara's gift." Anna smiled faintly. "No, father. It was always your choice." He hesitated, something flickering in his eyes. Guilt, perhaps, or the faint discomfort of being seen. Then it was gone. "Don't start old arguments, Anna. You're here to celebrate, not complain." "Of course," she said softly. "I wouldn't dream of ruining your perfect evening." He nodded, satisfied, and left. When he was gone, Anna touched the ledger again. Tracing her name, erased, overwritten, reduced to a line in ink. She closed the book gently and whispered, "Obedience was never loyalty. It was fear wearing a polite face." Outside, laughter floated through the windows. Clara's laughter, effortless and adored. Anna listened for a while, the corners of her mouth lifting into a quiet, almost tender smile. She wasn't angry anymore, just clear. For years, she had been told that silence was grace, that patience was virtue, that endurance was love, but she was starting to see the truth. Silence is just the sound of surrender until the day it becomes a weapon. And Anna was done surrendering. The morning after the dinner felt unusually still. Sunlight stretched across the long hallway, touching the portraits that had watched the Whitman family for generations. Each face, painted in muted oils, carried the same kind of pride that Anna had grown to recognize as blindness. She moved quietly through the house, her steps measured, her mind sharper than it had been in years. The discovery in her father's ledger had not broken her. It had cleared the fog that had kept her obedient. For the first time, she wasn't afraid to see things as they were. Downstairs, the house hummed with preparations for Clara's bridal luncheon. The air smelled of roses and sweet frosting, the kind of scent that pretended everything was perfect. As Anna passed through the kitchen, one of the older maids looked up, startled. "Miss Anna, I did not know you were back," Anna smiled gently. "Not many do." The maid hesitated, then whispered, "It is good to have you home. Things have not been the same." Her eyes flickered nervously toward the dining room, where Clara's voice echoed, bright and commanding. Anna understood the unspoken words. Not the same, not better. When she entered the room, Clara turned, irritation flashing before her smile returned. "Anna! You should have told me you'd be joining us this morning." "I wanted to surprise you," Anna said softly. "You always like surprises," Clara laughed lightly. "Well, that depends on the kind." Guests began to arrive, friends of the family, local dignitaries, people who adored Clara's charm and her father's influence. They looked at Anna with polite confusion, unsure where she fit in this perfectly arranged picture. At the far end of the table, Anna took her seat quietly. She didn't compete for attention. She didn't need to. Her silence had changed. It was no longer submission. It was observation. As the conversation unfolded, Clara spoke about her fiancé, about Paris, about the new family estate. Her words glittered like crystal, rehearsed, shimmering, hollow. When someone asked, "And you, Miss Anna, where have you been all these years?" The room fell into expectant silence. Anna smiled, slow, steady. "Oh, I have been learning." Clara tilted her head. "What sort of thing?" "How to build something that cannot be taken away," Anna replied. A few polite laughs followed. But her father's expression changed, a flicker of unease beneath his practiced calm. Later, as the guests drifted away, Anna approached him near the fireplace. "I read the ledger," she said simply. He stiffened. "You had no right—" "I had every right," she interrupted, her tone gentle but unyielding. "It has my name in it, after all," he sighed, turning away. "You always make things difficult." "No," she said. "You confuse silence with acceptance." "They're not the same." Her father said nothing. The silence between them stretched, heavy and final. That evening, Anna visited the old study again. From a locked drawer, she pulled out a small envelope. letters she had kept from her mother. Most were fading with time. But one line had always stayed clear. When truth no longer feels safe to speak, write it down. One day, it will speak for itself. Anna began to write names, dates, transactions, the lies her father had built his reputation on. She wrote everything she had seen, everything she had once ignored in the name of loyalty. And when she was done, she sealed the letters and placed them in a small wooden box. On its lid, she carved 2 words, for truth. She smiled faintly. Let them keep their gold, she whispered. I'll keep what's real. Outside, the wind moved through the garden, gentle but insistent, like the beginning of something that could no longer be stopped. Anna stood by the window, her reflection clear against the twilight. For the first time in 11 years, she didn't look like a shadow of the past. She looked like a woman returning to herself, quietly, completely, powerfully. The days before Clara's wedding moved with practiced perfection, rehearsals, fittings, endless details. Everyone in the Whitman house seemed to orbit around Clara's light. Everyone except Anna. She moved like a whisper, calm, composed, unnoticed by most, but underneath that calm, something was forming, not chaos, not rage, a storm with purpose. Each morning she sat in the garden with her tea, quietly observing. The servants spoke freely around her. They had forgotten she once carried power in this house. From their idle talk, she learned more than she expected. Clara's fiancé, William, had debts. Her father's business accounts were stretched thin. The lavish wedding was being paid for with borrowed money. And more quietly, the family name that had once commanded respect was beginning to rot beneath its own pride. Anna wrote it all down in her small notebook, a habit she had learned to keep since the night she found the ledger. The truth was no longer just memory. It was ammunition. At breakfast one morning, Clara breezed in, perfume preceding her as always. Anna, darling, you'll be pleased to know I mentioned you to one of William's friends. He might find your calm nature refreshing. Anna smiled slightly. How generous of you to offer me as conversation. Clara laughed, not catching the sting. You always had such a dry humor. Their father looked up from his newspaper. Clara, mind your tone. Anna's done well for herself, even if she chose a quieter life. Of course, Clara replied smoothly. Some of us were meant for bigger things. The comment hung in the air like perfume, sweet but suffocating. Anna sipped her tea slowly. And some of us were meant to make sure those big things don't collapse. Their father frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing at all, she said, smiling faintly. Just thinking aloud. He studied her for a moment. Something unfamiliar in her expression unsettled him. There was strength there now. Not defiance, but certainty. It made him uneasy. That night, Anna visited the study again. She opened her notebook and added a few more lines about William's secret meetings, about her father's reallocation of funds, about the quiet unease among the house staff. She wasn't planning revenge out of malice. She was preparing justice through truth. The next afternoon, the house filled with music and laughter again. Clara's bridal rehearsal dinner. Guests praised her charm, her beauty, her perfect life. Anna stood at the edge of the room, unnoticed, listening. She caught fragments of conversation, shallow admiration, polite envy. But then she heard a whisper from one of the older guests. Strange, isn't it? For a man with Mr. Whitman's fortune to be asking for loans, Anna turned slightly. Her lips curved, just a touch. The storm was beginning to spread on its own. Later that evening, she found William alone on the veranda, smoking a cigarette. Tension written across his face. Long night? She asked gently. He exhaled, startled. Anna, I didn't see you there. No one does, she replied with a small smile. That's what makes it useful. He laughed awkwardly, unsure if she was joking. You've changed. Yes, she said softly. Loyalty does that to a person. There was a beat of silence. Then she added, You should be careful what debts you take on before marrying into this family. Some come due faster than others, he froze. What do you mean? Anna's gaze met his, calm and unblinking. You'll understand soon. And then she walked away, slow, deliberate, leaving a ripple of unease in her wake. Inside, Clara was still glowing under the lights, her laughter loud and confident. But the walls were beginning to creak. The storm had not yet broken, but it was gathering strength. Silent, invisible, unstoppable. From the window above, Anna watched her family. The house that had erased her now trembling under secrets it refused to face. And for the first time in 11 years, she did not feel small. She felt like the truth, patient, unyielding, and about to arrive. Tone, suspenseful calm, emotional intelligence becoming strategic power. Emotion, audience feels quiet excitement, the calm before revelation. The morning of Clara's wedding began with perfection. The air smelled of lavender and rain, the sky a clean sheet of gray, calm before revelation. In the Whitman house, chaos hummed softly beneath the elegance. Servants rushed about, adjusting ribbons, polishing glass, arranging flowers in flawless symmetry. Every detail spoke of wealth and pride, but perfection is fragile when built on lies. Anna stood by her window, watching the carriages arrive. Guests in pearls and silk stepped onto the gravel path, laughter rising like a hymn. It all looked so beautiful, so carefully staged, and yet beneath that beauty, cracks had already begun to form. On her desk lay a small stack of letters, copies of the documents she had written in her mother's old handwriting, evidence of her father's hidden transactions, Clara's misuse of family funds, and William's quiet desperation for money. She had not forged lies. She had simply arranged the truth in the order it deserved to be seen. Each letter was addressed to someone different: the bank director, the family's lawyer, the charity board that funded Clara's events, and one to the local newspaper. They would all be delivered at noon. She checked her watch. It was 11:45. The mirror caught her reflection, composed, graceful, radiant in a simple pale blue dress. Not the kind of beauty that demanded attention, but the kind that lingered quietly, commanding it anyway. As she made her way downstairs, her father greeted her with his usual controlled warmth. "Anna, you look lovely today." "Thank you, Father." "It's a beautiful morning for truth, isn't it?" He frowned slightly, confused, but she had already moved past him. In the main hall, Clara stood before the mirror, veil cascading over her golden hair. She turned when she saw Anna, her expression soft but cautious. "You stayed after all," she said. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wouldn't have missed it," Anna replied. "After all, a wedding is a perfect time for revelation." Clara laughed lightly. "Still dramatic, I see." Anna smiled, the calmest expression she had ever worn. "You have no idea." The ceremony began in the family chapel. Guests filled the pews, the air sweet with white roses and expectation. Anna sat in the second row, her hands folded, her gaze fixed on Clara and William at the altar. As the priest began the vows, a man entered quietly from the back, the family's lawyer, holding an envelope. He leaned toward Mr. Whitman and whispered something. The color drained from her father's face. Then another messenger arrived, and then another. Whispers rippled through the guests. Clara faltered mid-vow. "Father, what's happening?" But her father couldn't speak. The lawyer handed her a letter, the same ones Anna had sent. Clara tore it open, eyes scanning the words. Her smile vanished. Her hand trembled. William turned pale. The priest hesitated, unsure whether to continue. Guests began murmuring. Someone gasped. Anna remained perfectly still, the calm center of the unraveling. Her father rose abruptly, voice shaking. "Who did this?" Anna met his gaze across the room. Steady, unflinching. Truth did. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the whispers grew louder. Phrases like embezzlement, debt, fraud floated through the air like ashes. Clara stumbled backward, tears filling her eyes. You did this to me?" Anna's voice was soft, almost tender. "No, Clara, you did this to yourself. I just stopped protecting the lie." Her father's hand slammed against the pew. "You've ruined us!" Anna stepped closer, her tone calm and final. "No, Father. You ruined yourself the moment you taught me obedience instead of truth." Silence filled the chapel. No one looked at Clara. No one dared look at him. The Whitmans' perfect image had cracked wide open. Outside, The rain finally began, gentle at first, then steady. Anna walked through it slowly, her steps unhurried. Behind her, the chaos grew louder. Shouts, tears, the sound of reputations collapsing, but she didn't turn back. The storm she had carried for years had finally broken, not with fire, but with grace. And as the rain touched her face, she felt lighter than she had in a decade. Sometimes revenge is not about destruction. It's about release, about finally letting the truth breathe where silence once lived. Anna smiled faintly to herself and whispered, "They wanted loyalty. I gave them justice." The rain lasted all afternoon. By the time the clouds began to break, the Whitman estate looked stripped of its perfection. Ribbons sagged, petals scattered across the marble steps, and the music had long since gone silent. Inside, the guests had dispersed. The house that once echoed with pride now murmured with embarrassment. Every whisper was a memory being rewritten. Anna stood in the library, the same room where she had once been told to keep her voice down. Now, there was no one left to silence her. On the desk lay the remnants of the morning's chaos: torn letters, broken glass, a bouquet abandoned on the floor. She looked at them quietly, her expression calm, almost tender. This was not triumph. It was closure. Her father sat by the window, shoulders heavy, staring at nothing. He looked smaller now, not the towering man who once controlled every word, but an aging figure surrounded by the consequences of his own choices. When Anna stepped closer, he did not look up. "Was it worth it?" he asked, voice hoarse. She paused. "It was necessary." He turned to her slowly, eyes red, face weary. "You've destroyed this family's name." "No," she said softly. "I've restored its truth. The name was already broken. I just refused to carry its lies any longer." He wanted to argue, but there was no strength left in him. For the first time, Anna didn't feel the old pull of guilt or longing for his approval. She only felt peace. She left him sitting in a silence and stepped outside into the soft drizzle. The Kew garden smelled of wet earth and roses, the same scent from her childhood. Only now it felt different. Free Clara appeared behind her. Barefoot, veil gone, mascara streaked, her voice cracked. "You've taken everything from me." Anna turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "No, Clara, I've given you what you never had, honesty. Now you can choose what to do with it." Clara's lips trembled. "You think this makes you better than us?" "No," Anna said, shaking her head gently. "It just makes me whole." There was no hatred between them now, only distance. Heavy and real. Clara turned and walked away, her perfect world dissolving with each step. Anna stayed a moment longer, letting the quiet settle. The storm was over, not because it had destroyed everything, but because it had revealed what was meant to fall. As evening came, she returned to her room and opened her mother's final letter once more. The ink had faded, but the words still carried warmth. "One day, you'll understand that truth is the only inheritance worth keeping," she smiled softly, folding the letter back into its envelope. Her mother had been right all along. Anna packed lightly, a single suitcase, her notebook, and the box labeled for truth. She looked around the room one last time. It no longer felt like exile. It felt like an ending, the right kind. At the door, the maid who had once whispered her welcome back stood waiting. "Will you be leaving us again, Miss Anna?" she asked. Anna smiled. "Not leaving, just beginning somewhere else." The maid hesitated. "Will they be all right?" Anna looked toward the distant sound of voices inside, the remnants of a family learning to live without lies. "They'll have to be," she said gently. "The truth doesn't destroy families. Pretending does." She stepped out into the fading light. The air was cool, the world quiet. The sky painted with the soft pink of forgiveness. As she walked down the long gravel path, she felt no need to look back. Her silence was no longer the sound of fear. It was the sound of power, of peace, of a woman who had finally chosen herself. Some victories are loud. This one was not. It didn't need applause or witnesses, or revenge dressed in cruelty. It was enough that she had survived, spoken, and set herself free. Anna whispered to the wind as it moved past her. "They took my loyalty, but they could never take my voice." And with that, she disappeared down the road, not as the forgotten daughter, but as the woman who turned silence into strength. And if this story touched something in you, take a quiet moment to like this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and share it with someone who understands what silent strength truly means. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts and keeps the voice of resilience alive. Subscribe to Revenge. Glow, where every story reminds us that healing can be powerful and revenge can be quiet.